Hello everyone, my name is Nicholas Craig and this is a video about Pocket Fleet programming. Now, Pocket Fleet programming was a workshop that I ran during the 2013 Monash University Computer Games Bootcamp. This is a IT industry and gaming exposure event run by the university. This particular workshop that I ran was part of a series of 3, which I'll talk about briefly. The first part was a presentation introducing concepts of game making and programming, how the two relate, some of the ideas behind them, where things like development kits and frameworks and game engines fit into the larger picture, and very much just an overview of what a game actually looks like under the hood. The second part was a workshop where I actually introduced students to a development environment and to a programming language. We went over things like errors and syntax, over console output, how to use variables and functions and control structures, to be an introduction to what programming actually is and how it works. And the third and final part of this series was the Pocket Fleet programming workshop, which is what this video was all about. So, the goals of this workshop were to get the students to come in and write a very high-level behavioral logic for entities that will be moving around on screen. This was designed so that they could come in, they could make use of this framework that I developed especially for the workshop, and they could have this very visual connection with what they were doing, and they could feel good about being able to work through the problems, understand what was going on, and get things moving around. This was also meant to be a very tangible connection and understanding of what it means to actually type on the keyboard and what effects that has on screen and in the program. Especially for people who aren't familiar with programming, having something really visual that they can connect to, I thought was really important. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the framework. This is the framework that I've developed. It's paused at the moment, it hasn't frozen. I developed this using C# and Microsoft XNA Game Studio in the week leading up to the game camp, along with my other workshops and presentations. It's a two-dimensional top-down space game simulation type thing. The main components being stations and spaceships, which I'll talk about a bit more later. Behind the scenes, if we want to have a look at how that's set up, we have down the bottom stations, projectiles and ships, all inheriting from a game object. These are sort of all the things that happen on the screen, so they've got the draw and the update and all of that sort of stuff in there. We've got cargo over here, which is part of a trading mechanic, and we've got pilot classes. The whole idea of the pilot class being that the ship knows how to do things. The pilot knows how to make decisions. So the pilot decides what the ship should do next. And it's sort of an artificial intelligence type plugin that the ship has. For this workshop, I wanted the students to just be working within the pilot class. I didn't want them mucking around with characteristics of the ship or any of the other stuff that you can see. I wanted them to be just inside that pilot class writing that behavioral logic. And there's some interfaces that I set up to make sure that that all worked nicely. Another benefit I found of this was also I could break up behavior sets into different subclasses. So we've got a trade behavior set and a mercenary behavior set, and they all separate nicely without actually having to change how the ship works at all. So yeah, that's what it looks like behind the scenes. That's how I set it up. Let's have a look at the game in motion. So I'll unpause this and I'll talk a little bit about the elements. So we've got stations here which are immobile. They have a dead zone around them in which ships cannot fire upon other ships. Aggressive acts are banned. Stations are responsible for generating cargo and accepting cargo deliveries. They pay ships in credits, which is part of this trading mechanic. They can also repair ships, which costs credits. And they sort of form the points in space that things happen around. Then we have ships, and at the moment we can see these ships have no pilot driving them, they're just wandering around. Ships They know how to dock with stations, they know how to fire upon other ships, they know how to pick up and deliver cargo and that sort of thing, but they don't make any of the decisions. So at the moment we've just got ships wandering around aimlessly. You can also click on individual ships, which gives you a status readout in the top corner, showing you their credits, which is part of the trading, bounty, which is part of the combat. You deal damage and you get bounty, is a way to measure that. Their health, whether they're docked or not, whether they have cargo or not, and their position. Ships also have a weapons range, which you can see here, a visual range, and you can toggle those on and off. So this is what the students would have seen when they first came into the workshop. The framework all set up with everything working, but no decisions being made about what the ships should do next. So they came in, we sat them down, we worked through the trading logic, we worked through a few other things. By the end of the workshop, they should have something which looks a bit more like this. What I've done here is I've actually added a few more ship types that I'll talk about in a minute. So if we watch our trade ships, I'll unpause this, the trade ships now move towards stations, they dock with the stations, they pick up cargo, turning them green. They will then take that cargo towards that cargo's destination, they'll dock with that station, and they'll drop it off. And this will earn them credits and get them moving around. So this was the first stage of the workshop, to get them to build this trade class pilot, to get them to understand how to use the framework, how to pull information in and out using the hooks that they had access to, and how to get something moving around on screen. As you can see, it's very visual. You can see where your ship is, you can see whether or not it has cargo, you can see information about it just by clicking on it. Very understandable. The second part of the workshop, which we then went on to, was to create one of these mercenary ships. We can see down here we've already got some mercenary ships doing what they do. Mercenary ships was the next step forward. It was to get ships to interact with other ships, to fire upon them and take part in that combat mechanic. So mercenary ships, the ones I've got here, they check inside their visual range for any ships that they can see. If they can see any ships and they're not inside a ceasefire zone, they will move towards that ship and fire at that ship, hopefully hitting, doing some damage and earning some bounty. These mercenary ships aren't very smart. They've got no real self-preservation, they've got no trading, it's just the moving towards opponents and firing upon them. When that opponent is destroyed, or they are destroyed, or they go out of range, the ship will then revert back to a random wander throughout space. The third part of the workshop, which we went over, was to create a super pilot, which we can see down here. The super pilot was very much just a space for the students to put everything they'd learned all into one ship. This wasn't structured as much, this was very much a free rein for the students to build whatever they saw fit, and what you're seeing here is my representation, my interpretation of what this super ship is. So my super ship will, at the start of the simulation, trade with stations for a period of time until it has 100 credits or more stocked up in its back pocket. This gives it a nice buffer. Once it has those 100 credits, it will then act more like a mercenary ship, so it will wander around, it will find ships, and it will then fire at them to collect bounty. These ships, however, have a... see, look, this one's only got 69 credits, so it's going and trading some more to build that buffer back up. These ships, however, have self-preservation. So while these ships are out firing and attacking other ships, if their health falls below 50 out of 100, that ship will actually break off the attack, move towards the station, and repair itself. These ships also, when they have cargo stocked up, if they get fired upon, they will dump that cargo, creating a debris field around them, granting them temporary invulnerability, which we might even see here in a minute. So these ships have that survival instinct, and it means that they survive much longer and get much higher scores. As I said, this was very much open to interpretation. The students created their own. Some of them were really interesting and really clever. But this is the workshop. So the 3 phases were to get them building trade ships, getting trade ships moving around, to then move on to building these mercenary ships, and then finally build these super ships which the kids could do anything they wanted with. And on the whole, the workshop went fantastic. Like, there was a lot of really enthusiastic students that came. They were really interested. The content was presented to them in a way that they seemed to understand. And yeah, just really great feedback all around. Here we go. This ship here has dumped its cargo and has gone to that station to repair itself. Cool. So this is the workshop that I ran. If you're interested in finding out more about the Monash Game Camp, or getting your hands on the source code, or finding out more about this, leave comments down below. Check out the links in the description, and if you're interested, feel free to contact me or subscribe or check out the other stuff that I've put up. I am actually in the process of developing a more advanced real-time strategy type game out of this framework, so there'll be videos up about that very soon. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time.